Shayna Goldman from The Athletic has joined us here on the show today, as she always does on Fridays. It is great to see you, Shayna. We are sitting in a little bit of a dark atrium here at the arena, kind of cold and cloudy, but there is a young family walking across towards the store right now, and it might be the smallest Sabres fan I've ever seen, Marty. My goodness.
I've seen small fans, but this one is on a running path, and Shayna must be like literally a year and a half, and she is trucking, so it's really fun to see.
And speaking of young, Shayna, we are looking at the fourth youngest Sabres netminder to make his debut tonight in Devon Levi. And we are not surprised to learn that you've done a little NCAA goaltender research for us to get us started today.
Wow, what a smooth transition from young fans to Devon Levi. So here's the thing. We don't understand anything about goaltending. I know, like, you bring me on for like facts and information, and I'm going to start it this way. We don't know anything about goaltending. And it's not just we, media, analysts, teams don't know anything about goaltending. I swear the only people who understand goaltending are goaltenders. There's an idea in the NHL that goaltenders take longer to develop. And while that might be true, it's because we don't know much else. We don't know anything different. It's very rare we see a goaltender come up and really take on a starting role or even a backup role when they're 21, 22 years old. It's super rare instances like the UC Stars of the world. The difference is those young goalies sometimes will have someone like Pecorine to lead the way and show them the ropes, and they can, ideally a goalie's going to come in, they're going to back up for a bit, they're going to share the net, and then eventually they're going to take over the net. So for NCAA goaltending, if we go specifically there, it's kind of interesting how many goaltenders come in from the NCAA but don't immediately go to the NHL level, right? They go to the AHL. We can look at Jonathan Quick, Ryan Miller, Connor Hellenbuck, Jimmy Howard, Jake Ottinger as the more like modern goaltenders to go that path. They might play a couple games at the NHL level, but they don't tend to stick there off the bat. The rare instance is Spencer Knight, who came in during the playoffs for the Panthers, and maybe that's a good comparable because we're talking about someone who's going to come in, play a couple games, and then they can reassess the summer. You have someone like Spencer Knight who came in, he did a great job in the playoffs, and then his role from there was a little interesting, and that's because of the Bobrovsky contract. So it's not like it was his fault he didn't get to start more. He did struggle a bit, but the situation in Florida has been hectic as it is, and their defense is what it is. So this is going to be an interesting one. How much is this just a tester before he goes to the AHL, or is this the start of his NHL career right now?
Are you worried of the way the Sabres have played defensively and the fact that they're playing the New York Rangers, being that this is going to be a guy like Devon Levi's first test? Or does a goaltender like Levi, and I brought in UC Soros, and you mentioned Soros on this show before, saying that they thrive on chaos and on broken plays and on using their athleticism. So is it more fitting for him, being that, well, the team sometimes is not the best defensively, but it may fall into a best part of his game?
It's going to be trial by fire, and someone can either sink or swim in that. This is, with the Rangers, you have a team that has all the finishing talent, right? They have Mika Zibanejad, they have Artemi Panarin, they have Chris Kreider. They have a lot of players who can score goals. The bright side is the Rangers don't put up a ton of shots. They don't put up a ton of quality chances at 5-on-5, and that's been especially true over their last stretch. So while he's going to be tested, and the fact that the Sabres are what they are defensively is going to open the door to more offensive creation from the Rangers, they're not going up against someone like maybe the Panthers or the Maple Leafs. It's a little bit different because you don't have as much shot volume in front unless the Sabres fall apart defensively. And you have to imagine this is going to, kind of force them to tighten up, right? We see it all the time when backup goaltenders are in net, the team plays differently. So it's a good way to say this is the caliber NHL shooters you're going to face. But maybe it won't be as chaotic as it could be with other matchups. But some goaltenders, like you said, Saros, Igor Shesterkin's another example. They transitioned to the NHL so smooth, even if they're playing behind the worst teams. For Shesterkin, that was the Hartford Wolfpack, one of the worst AHL teams, to quickly the Rangers, one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL. Some thrive off that, so it's a good way to figure it out early.
Do we think Levi is going to face more shots than what Cam Talbot faced last night? 11 shots on goal.
I think that the Rangers are going to pick their chances because they don't have enough of a 5-on-5 rhythm. So I don't think he's going to be all too busy.
What about this? People were asking me what is one of Devon Levi's strength, and I said, well, I think moving laterally, his quickness inside the crease. Are the Rangers a team that like to move the puck more east to west, like do these crossing passes inside the zone? That's at my first look, and my eye test tells me that they are more a team like that than a straightforward rush team. What does the number tell on the Rangers in their puck movement in the offensive zone?
Yeah, they absolutely are a team that's good at moving the puck laterally. And I think you have it where they try to be a little bit more of a north-south team, and that's what Gerard Gallant seems to want from them, instead of players like Panarin going off and doing whatever he does. But you do have a lot of lateral movement. You look at the players on the Rangers. Zibanejad's a very good passer. Chris Kreider is also a sneaky good passer. Artemi Panarin is one of the best puck movers in the entire league. Patrick Kane still has that playmaking ability. You have Adam Fox on the blue line. You have players like Keandre Miller stepping up offensively. And then the kid line that also can move the puck laterally. You have so many different players who are going to do that, and not just on a power play, which is when you expect it. When, it's going to be someone like Panarin from the right circle feeding Zibanejad in the left circle. At even strength, you're going to see a lot of that. So it's something that, Levi's going to have to prepare for, but it's something that might actually work to his strengths, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm excited I'm amped up for this just based on how Devon handles himself, and he's just so excited that he is seeing the Rangers. Like, I know he would feel this way about any opponent, but I think he's absolutely ready to take on one of the league's best teams, at least from a mental and probably physical standpoint too. So we'll see that energy undoubtedly translate tonight when he takes the ice. Unfortunately, what we've seen, Shayna, with point production for Rasmus Dahlin over the last little while, it's been down, and we all know that he's not been close to 100% health-wise. That being said, there was a time where it was a small group of players we were discussing for the Norris Trophy. Karlsson has widened his lead significantly from a points standpoint, and you just mentioned Adam Fox. What's your ballot looking like for Norris Trophy finalists this year at this point in time, and who's the favorite?
So I actually don't vote. I'm just here to make fun of everybody else's votes and tell them how they did it wrong. There's no guilt for me. I can help people with their ballots, and then I can dunk on them afterwards. So the Norris Trophy is one of my favorites. I'm working on a big story about this for Monday, actually. It's finally coming together, and it's really fun because I have a bunch of writers help me out by asking players and coaches what they think the criteria should be. The general consensus a lot of the time is that it's a two-way award, which is what's going to hurt Erik Karlsson. It's not to say he's not good defensively. When you look at what the Sharks do in his minutes, they dominate the puck because he dominates the puck. And now he has no help whatsoever without Timo Meier there to give him that assist when they're on the ice together. But when you look at Adam Fox, you have this ideal two-way defenseman who does it all and plays the tough minutes. And then you're going to get to the conversation of, does it matter if they're in the playoffs? Well, I don't think it does. Should you be on a bottom feeder? There's all these different elements to it that's going to break down the conversation between Erik Karlsson and Adam Fox. And it's going to be really interesting to see how voting goes this year. It was similar last year with Roman Josi. It was look at the historic season he's having. Look at the MVP caliber season he's having. That's great and wonderful. Shouldn't that be for the Hart, not the Norris? And that's the conversation it's going to be with Karlsson a bit. So we'll see how the voting shakes out with that, and who else is going to get nods. Will it be someone like Hampus Lindholm, who's deserving, Josh Morrissey besides the recent slip, or Dougie Hamilton, who's really jumped up too? I think Dahlin should probably be top 5, but I don't think he's going to end up top 2 because of the recent slide.
Where do you have Cale Makar? Because I think, personally, I would have him in my top 3, but sometimes other factors come in. So where do you have Cale Makar?
So what's going to hurt him is his injury status this year, right? It was kind of similar to Charlie McAvoy last year. This year we knew Charlie McAvoy is not going to be in the vote as much because he missed time. So that's going to hurt his point totals, and if we're looking at the surface level. But the fact of the matter is, in his minutes, he's one of the best defensemen in the league. He is the leader in average game score of all defensemen this season. And in the month of March, he led every single skater in average game score. We're seeing him at the height of his strengths. The ice is tilted in his minutes. He's a smart defender. And yes, you can pinpoint plays like I think it was the shorthanded goal by Freddie Gaudreau against the Wild and say, well, he's bad defensively. That is, the outlier versus the true value. I would have him top 5 still because what he's doing in his minutes is still outstanding. He's redefining the position as a rover, and he's just he's a force every time he's on the ice. You know, he is this elite defenseman so quick into his career. So definitely top 5 for me.
Shayna, any more clarity in your mind when you look at the Eastern Conference wildcard picture as to which teams will press the hardest, be the most successful here in the final couple of weeks, and ultimately emerge in those positions?
No, because no one wants to be wild card 2, apparently. Everybody keeps falling out of place. It is unreal what is happening right now. I've never seen teams trip over themselves so often to make it to the playoffs. I think it's going to be Pittsburgh because they have a little bit of an advantage from games played standpoint. They have the point lead right now. And I think Sidney Crosby is going to keep being Sidney Crosby, and he's having just an outstanding year once again. But you have to look at Pittsburgh and go, why did you hurt your chances so much? If they did nothing at the deadline, I think they'd be in a better position. They went for a goaltender just so they had a little bit more security, because we know how Tristan Jarry is in the playoffs and his injury status. It just seems like there's too many holes in Florida, and while you can't make the playoffs in the beginning of the season, you can lose the playoffs in the beginning of the season. And what their start did is, you know, what put them in this position. Every time they take a step forward, they take a leap back. So I think it's going to be Pittsburgh, but it would be really interesting if they could actually both start winning and make it close down the stretch and exciting.
What about the Florida Panthers starting Alex Lyons on back-to-back games, like on the March 29th and 30th and 29th and 30th. I got my dates right. Anyway, I've been saying teams, like, you should trust your goalies on back-to-back. They didn't even play Bobrovsky on either one of those back-to-back games in the middle of a race. Like, how about how courageous that was for the Florida Panthers to start Alex Lyons on back-to-back games?
It was bold and it worked out for them. And it's like you have been saying, start goaltenders in back-to-back situations. At the very least, it's going to prepare them for the playoffs, right? Because they're not going to be saying in the second half of back-to-back games 5 and 6, I don't want to start. I'm tired. That's never going to happen. I think that teams have to play differently in front of different goaltenders. And while Bobrovsky isn't a goalie I would necessarily play loose in front of, I guess there's a big difference between starter and third string goaltender. But if they could have this weird 3 goalie situation and just have some chaotic stretch, you know, to end the year, I don't think anyone would be complaining, because we all want to be interested, right? We just don't want to be bored. But it does seem like maybe it's a motivational tactic, like get Bobrovsky going a little bit more. You could lose your crease not to Spencer Knight, but to the third string. I don't really know what the idea is there. I have a lot of questions about their coaching, but if they can try to get any of their goaltenders performing well, they have to roll with the hot hand, right?
And
There's no question about the rant that Paul Maurice said the other night after the goal was actually not allowed to Toronto, but his rant was one of the best. So no questions about that, that's for sure.
But, Shayna, I've never ended an interview this way, and I will apologize up front if this is somehow a HIPAA violation if I ask if you're lactose intolerant. But what was with your cereal take this week?
Yes.
I'm not lactose intolerant. I just don't like milk, and I don't like things being soggy. I like things that are crunchy. Like, you have like the clear containers for the cereal, and I keep my Captain Crunch there, and I like to just take it out, sit on the counter, and eat it dry. Like, it's a weird thing that I do. I think cereal with milk is absolutely disgusting. You couldn't pay me to eat it. I'll have it dry any day of the week, and not for breakfast, but like as a midday snack, personally.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Shayna, whatever, Captain Crunch, Fruit Loops, the milk after, when you drink it, is the best part of the whole cereal. That's the
gross.
Sweet milk that you get.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you
hate
for
it.
constant.
I hate it so much. If I can avoid using milk, I do. I am not a fan.
Okay, we're out of time, and it's a perfect way to end. Thank you, as always. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.